went over a few things yesterday, talked about a few things, and Ben walked in this morning, flung open the door. Made a grand entrance, and then we got to work.
Hey everyone, welcome into the Offseason. I'm Cassie Carlson, joined by Herb Howard from the Bigs Media. Herb, good to have you in studio.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's fun because we always see each other up at Hallis Hall,
sure.
And it's always fun. We have some good conversations. We kind of dissect everything that's said in the press conferences because we sit across from each other in our little cubicles up there. Bears back at Hallis Hall as Ben Johnson got to address his new team for the first time. What were your takeaways from their first impressions from their new head coach?
They all seemed impressed. I thought they said all the things I thought they would say. Nothing really was surprising. Nothing really stood out to me about what they said. This is the time of year where you want to hear guys say, hey, I've been working out. I feel good about where I am physically. I feel good where I am mentally. And then obviously have a new head coach. And so they're going to say all the positive things about him. I think he's earned those things. But I think I heard exactly what I expected to hear. It was really cool to hear Jalen Johnson talk about, hey, it's cool that we feel good and we have these expectations, but let's just put the work in, man. Let's talk about that when we get there. Let's focus on winning games in November, in December. And I think that's a really good mentality to have right now.
Let's talk about his relationship with Caleb Williams, because we know that's going to be the most important one over the next, hopefully, 5-10 years, that they're both here with a ton of success. And Ben Johnson has said, my success is directly linked to Caleb Williams' success. They are very,
I'm glad he knows that.
Yeah, they are very tied together. He's going to challenge him in a lot of different ways. Here's what Caleb Williams said about already being challenged by his new head coach.
Him testing us about what we talked about yesterday and things like that. So already first day in and challenging us, and we can't. Everybody loves a challenge in this sport. It's one of the great things about the sport. Every day is a challenge, and today we got our first one.
All right, Herb, how do you see this relationship working between the two of them? We know Ben Johnson is an intense guy.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, I would say, didn't have an intense coach until Thomas Brown tried to bring a little bit more out of him after Matt Eberflus was fired. So how do you see those two working together?
I think they should work well. I think, one, I don't have the expectation that they're friends. They don't have to be friends. Like, people want them to have this great relationship off the field. They don't have to. They have to respect each other, and they have to work well together. I think that Coach Johnson is going to hold Caleb Williams to a very high standard, and when he doesn't meet the standard, he'll be held accountable for not meeting that standard. And I think ultimately it's going to pull the very best out of Caleb Williams. He has an immense tool set. He can, everything you want your quarterback to be able to do, he can do it. He also wants to be great. He's willing to work at it. Coach Johnson is going to demand that from him each and every day. And if they can work together, Caleb should reach his ceiling, and then obviously that'll mean a lot of success for Coach Johnson.
All right, there was something that came out from Ian Rappaport from NFL Network yesterday, and he had some pretty direct messaging for how hard Caleb Williams is going to have to work under Ben Johnson. Take a listen.
It's going to be really hard. And I know he's ready. I know he thinks he's ready. But I don't know if he truly understands what it's going to be like just to go from good, but to be great, to be one of the actual greats, which his talent should allow him to do, Kyle. Yep. It is going to be really miserable. And Ben Johnson has been incredibly successful in Detroit. Is he the most pleasant person to be around during the season? I don't think he is. It's going to be hard. And I don't even know if right now Caleb Williams understands, but like on a Monday night in November is going to be like, it's going to suck. Okay. And if you want to be great, it has to suck. To get where they need to go, he has to embrace being absolutely and utterly miserable.
All right, so we were talking before we started the show, and you said you had not heard that yet.
Not, no.
What's your reaction to hearing a national insider with that messaging?
I think Ben Johnson probably told him to go say that. Like, hey, let him know this isn't going to be fun. Like, I am going to press on him and press on him and press on him. And it very well may be miserable, but the work has to be done. Sometimes doing that hard work isn't fun, but it's necessary. Caleb has talked about wanting to be great. He's talked about wanting to be great since he was a kid, and he's met the challenge everywhere. He's talked about being #1 player and being the Heisman and getting the #1 pick. He's done all those things. Well, now do you want to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? If you do, this is what it's going to take. And now you may be married to a coach who is going to absolutely demand that from you every day. And it's not always going to be fun. It doesn't have to be, man. Just get the job done. I think he has the right mentality for it. I thought last year he showed some of that. When the Bears were losing, he never really went in the tank. We saw some of his best football late in games, fourth quarter situations where he continued to compete. And so I don't think he'll run from that challenge. I think he wants to be great.
Are you framing his second season like another rookie season for him? Because it's hard to kind of digest what his rookie season really was because of all the changes and how good he really can be, given the fact that he wasn't drafted into a good situation when he expected to be.
Yeah, I think that he certainly needs to take a big jump this year, right? And I think that he can. A lot of people thought he came into the best situation
Right.
any rookie quarterback has ever come into last year, neglecting to
fast.
understand the holes that they had at the offensive line, some of the deficiencies that they had in terms of in-game decisions, right? And so now you've gone through that. You kind of reset it. He should be in place with a much healthier infrastructure around him, a much better offensive line in front of him. And so he should have everything he needs to take that next step. Again, he has the tool set, he has the makeup and the mentality. He's got to put it all together.
You were at owners' meetings where Ben Johnson talked a lot. I think he's really good at getting his messaging across through the media, because I've noticed it a few times. And he talked about how he plans to work Caleb Williams under center more when he's spent 70% of his snaps out of the shotgun his rookie season, and really his entire college career too. How do you think that's going to benefit Caleb Williams in this offense?
Yeah, I personally love, playing under center. I think it gives you a lot of flexibility for what you can do offensively. You're allowed to marry your running game with your passing game in a way that doesn't really work the same when you're in the gun 70% of the time. You get under center, you can run your running game, then you can set up your play action. You can do a lot of different things that look the same way, and vice versa. You can do a lot of the same things that look differently. And so I like the fact of him getting under center and utilizing that a bit more. He's going to have to get used to it. The footwork is a little bit different. The processing, the timing is a little bit different. But if he works at it and gets it down, it'll benefit him.
All right, we all became experts or tried to become experts in EPA. And after listening to Caleb Williams, I think he's also trying to learn what it means.
Yeah.
After hearing Ben Johnson going on about that directly correlates to winning the most, that's the one stat analytic. What did you learn about EPA and like how to dumb it down for people? Because I feel like it's a little bit controversial. Everyone thinks they know what it is.
To me, the simplest way to dumb it down is just to be efficient offensively. You talk about expected points added. Well, if you're watching a football game, right? If this play goes well for the offense, you get a little bit higher expectation of them scoring on this drive, right? We get a first down. Okay, well, I expect us to score more than I did before we got the first down, right? So it's just about having an efficient offense that stays on time, on schedule, ahead of the sticks. Don't consistently put yourself in third and long situations, limit the penalties, limit the mistakes. That's really all it's talking about. You can put a name on it and all that if you want to, but at the end of the day, how often are we having positive plays versus negative plays? Too often in here around Chicago, we've seen negative plays almost as frequently as we've seen positive plays.
All right, let's get to some defensive players, Jalen Johnson and Tremaine Edmonds, who had takeaways from Ben Johnson's first meeting.
Really just the mindset of winning and winning right now. And winning a certain type of way, too. I think just having that dominated mentality is something that I took from the team meeting.
You don't just want to win, but we want to win by a lot. You know what I mean? We want to dominate. And, you know what I mean? I think that's important. You know what I mean? That just talks about his mentality. It talks about his mindset.
To me, you get in a fight, you just don't want to barely win the fight. You want to whoop the guy in front of you. So, I mean, that's what the mentality is for us. It's not just about barely winning or barely getting by, but dominating.
All right, Jalen Johnson, good to see him there. He made a joke. He was like, you guys are surprised to see me? Were you surprised that he was there?
I wasn't surprised that he's there. I think that he's continued to grow into his leadership role in this team. He's always been somebody that's focused, on his own development, make sure he's doing the right things. But I think he's grown even more into being a leader of the overall locker room and trying to set that example by his own performance. And so I think it was really good that he showed up.
All right, we're going to see more man coverage under Dennis Allen, and
Yes.
Jalen Johnson said he expects to travel and follow the number one wide receiver. This is something that I'm personally really excited for, and I feel like he has been waiting for this. And so what do you think that's going to mean for Jalen Johnson, this defense, and his career? Because we know he has big expectations for himself.
Exactly. It gives him an opportunity to put his full game on display. Jalen Johnson is extremely confident in his ability on the football field, and I think he has the right to be. I have a lot of confidence in his ability, too. I don't think the Bears have always utilized him to aid the overall defense. If you can say, hey, Jalen Johnson, go lock down their best receiver, then that allows us to do other things with the defense. We can bring some exotic pressures. We can play some other zone looks on the other side. If Jalen Johnson is able to line up against the other team's number one receiver consistently and limit what that receiver is able to do, it's going to really, really benefit this defense. It's something that he's wanted to do for a very, very long time. I know he's excited about the challenge. We'll see what that actually looks like.
All right, we got to take a break. The draft is 2 weeks away. When we come back, could Ben Johnson push to draft a tight end 10th overall, or should the Bears stick with the trenches? Herb and I discuss when we come back on the Offseason. Herb Howard joining me from the Bigs Media. You know, we're talking about the Bears in phase 1 of OTAs, but really we're 2 weeks out from the draft, and it's kind of crazy to think about because I have no idea what direction they're going to go in. As Ryan Poles has said, as Ben Johnson has said, because of what they did in free agency and pulling off those 2 trades, they really are in position to draft best player available. When you look at it, who do you hope that is?
You know what? I don't want to duck your question, Cass, but I really don't know because they've done such great work to this point in terms of free agency and utilizing some good trades where they have created so much flexibility going into the draft. They could literally do almost anything, and I could view it as a good move. I do think they still have needs at positions like edge rusher. Maybe they want to go ahead and finish overhauling their offensive line and say, hey, let's just get a left tackle, and we flip our whole offensive line. And that either of those things would be fine. But I also look at it and say, well, I know you need an edge rusher, but do you take your 3rd or 4th best edge rusher and pass on the number 1 tight end or maybe the number 1 running back if they happen to fall to you? So I think they've created themselves such flexibility that they can do almost anything at this point.
And every time I get asked, I say I want them to continue to build in the trenches because I don't think it's the safe move. I think it's the smart move for the long term. But if they were to take an Ashton Jeanty, if he is available, I mean, I wouldn't be mad. I'd be really excited for what hopefully he can bring with DeAndre Swift and having an overhauled interior offensive line. What's your take on Tyler Warren, though? Because he seems to be building steam as a potential option at 10.
That seems like a really, really good chess piece to have. He can do so many things for you offensively, not only line up in the traditional tight end role, but I think that he's a guy, as you see here, who can stretch the field for you. He can go up and catch the 50-50 balls. I think you can line him up in the backfield as well. He can do so many things for an offense, and I think Ben Johnson will just really, really enjoy moving him around the field to create some mismatches. You can put him on the field with Cole Kmet, too. You can use him in that kind of fullback situation, similar to what the 49ers have done with Kyle Juszczyk. There's so many things that he can do for you on the football field.
All right, I'm hearing some people wanting the Bears to trade up for Ashton Jeanty, and I think that's a little bit crazy and a deep running back draft class. And I also don't think it's something that Ryan Poles has showed us that he would do, given this fact that he tends to trade down. So based off your reaction, you're also like, no, let's not do that. Let's hold with the draft picks that we have.
The Bears don't have the luxury to trade up for Ashton Jeanty right now. In fact, before they started to acquire all these people in free agency and these trades, I would have said he was a luxury they couldn't afford even if he fell to them at 10. Now I'm at least willing to have the conversation about drafting him at 10. But the idea of trading up to go get him, I don't want to hear that. That's just not smart. I think if the Bears were to trade up to get anybody, I think the only person that would make sense is if Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan, start to fall down the board. If those quarterbacks start to go, you get Travis Hunter, Jeanty, Tyler Warren, and you look up and you now at maybe 7 or 8, and Mason Graham is still on the board for you. Going up to get him is the only player I can see the Bears moving up for.
All right, I want to bring up something that you tweeted about because Shedeur Sanders had his pro day where he was throwing. And the one thing that gets picked up from it is that he does the extra pat right before he throws a ball. And someone was like, oh, this is going to make him fall down. Everyone's bored. And you were like, can we stop with this? Because you watch all the greats and they all do the same thing.
It's a natural thing that most quarterbacks do. It's a comforting thing. 2, it helps you get in rhythm and stay in rhythm. And then 3, it's the last opportunity you get to really just kind of secure the ball one more time in your hand before you go through your full throwing motion. But they all do it. This is not something that's unique to Shedeur in any kind of way. They're talking about, oh, well, the defensive backs are going to be able to read it and they're going to jump on the ball. No, they're not. It's like, boom, and the ball's out.
He's a Deion Sanders kid sort of thing, you think?
I think so. I think that, the same way Prime did, Shedeur brings a lot of attention on himself. He's flashy. He does the watch thing and all this. And that's fine. If you're going to be able to handle that, that's fine. He likes the attention. He seems to be able to handle the attention. He's grown up as Deion Sanders' son his whole life. So I don't think that the lights are too bright for him. But it's just he has to understand that some of these things will come with it. But to me, the conversation is absolute nonsense.
All right, where do you think Shedeur Sanders gets drafted? Because it sounds like Cam Ward's going to be the first one off the board.
Yeah, I think teams will always, jump up and take a quarterback. And so people talk about him sliding down the board. I don't see that he's going to get, past the Giants. You got the Browns, the Giants, the Raiders, all these teams talking about quarterbacks. I don't think he gets past 5 or 6.
Really?
I still think that he's going to be top 5 or 6 pick in this draft.
All right, Herb Howard, I appreciate you coming on the offseason. We'll see you up at Hallis Hall next week.
Thanks so much.